God damn, that thing's huge.
俺は怖かったんだよ、フリーレン。
Whoa, I have non-stop goosebumps right now. The dwarf, the warrior who defeated the Demon King, or who helped defeat the Demon King, got scared reflexively. His body reacted before his mind could stop himself. So his body reflexively hit or fought Stark because he felt that Stark is such a powerful opponent. Hello friends, my name is Benoit Kim, a UPenn educated psychotherapist, and I will be decoding the human condition and relevant psychological concepts from each video that I watch. So what does Frieren Beyond Journeys Ends episode 6 reveal about the role of mentorship and personal growth, therapeutic role of companionship and peer support, cognitive flexibility and growth mindset, and psychology of trust? Let's get this started. That's a massive gap. How many cuts and slashes did it take? 20, 30, 50, hundreds? I think Fern has adapted and acquired Frieren's brutal honesty straight to the point. You're not going to fight the solar dragon, aren't you? So why bother? Why train? Straight to the point. Brutal savagery.
そんな連中がさ、今では幸せそうに笑ってるんだよ。シュタルク様がいるからこの村は大丈夫だってな。俺は何もしてないってのによ。
What do you guys think about what Stark is saying? That although he froze, as we talked about in episode 5, with the natural human wiring of fight, flight, or freeze, when your amygdala takes over, which is a fear center, a lot of people will freeze, fight, or flight. In Stark's case, he froze, but regardless, he became a status of symbol, or the symbol of peace. He represents peace and safety to the villagers' minds. And that's what he's saying, that how can I leave? I'm not trying to be a freeloader. I'm not trying to ride on this fictitious, non-existent fame and reputation of being a dragon defender of the city or the village, but I'm the symbol of peace. Look at how happy I'm making the village smile. They went from sorrow and bleak and hopelessness to a place of hope and joy. What do you guys think about this? Is Stark being an imposter, or is he genuinely trying to maintain the symbol of peace? Because hope is the most potent and powerful and necessary ingredients for human survival. Once you lose hope, then you can guarantee that your depression, your anxiety, your mental health, your well-being, every future health indexes decreases exponentially according to the latest clinical psychology and mental health research. So hope is crucial. So one could argue that Stark is maintaining hope as the status of symbol, the symbol of peace for the village. But on the other side, you could also argue that he's an imposter. He's a faker. He didn't do anything. What do you guys think? Which school of thought are you on? Comment your thoughts below. Oh, good question. He is a hero. This is interesting because I want to talk about a recently very famous and common saying that our perceptions are realities. That is a bunch of horseshit. I can't even talk properly. And it's completely false. It's a fallacy. Our perceptions are not realities. Why? Our realities are realities, and our perceptions, our perceived reality, is often distorted based on our thoughts, our emotions that day, our mood, like the dragon not attacking the village because he wasn't in the mood. So our perception is often distorted. Think about the word hangry. I don't know about you guys, but I fall for hanger all the time. If I'm not eating, if I go a long day without eating because I got caught up with work, the tunnel vision, productivity, trap, whatever the case may be, I get very grumpy, and I'm generally very grounded, and I'm a very patient guy because I'm a psychotherapist. and my characteristics and my personality traits. So even the simple factor of not eating food impacts our mood and our emotional capacity. There is a very famous study by Yale establishing that judges and the cruelty and the harshness of their sentencing for the people who are waiting for trials or who haven't been sentenced to prisons yet. The famous study established that based on the timing of the lunch. So for example, if the judges haven't eaten their lunch break yet and they have their trials before their lunch break versus they're having their trials after their lunch break, the sentencing and the outcome of their decision making and their rules of conduct for the law is a lot harsher and more stringent and less compassionate and less lenient for the judges who haven't had their lunch break. And for the judges who have had their lunch break, then their sentencing tends to be more lenient, more understanding, there is more leeway. And think about this, judges are some of the most intellectually rigorous and trained professionals out there. Their entire job is the law. So if judges, the specific group of highly trained, highly intellectual, highly self-aware group of people are impacted by not eating their food, like myself, if people like that are impacted and their perceptions are distorted, because like I said, the harshness of their sentencing sometimes have little to do with the factual accuracy of the case or the circumstances, but rather, how are we feeling in that moment? So perception is not reality, and food and hunger are just two of the many variables that can distort your thoughts and your feelings and how you perceive this world. So perception is not reality. That's the rule. That is, I put that to rest for good. But quickly here, that's what Stark is saying, right? He's saying that I am the hero of the village. That is the perception by the village of Stark. So he's caught in the middle. The perception of the village is that he's a hero, but the reality is that he's not a hero because he didn't do anything. He just froze. So that's why he's saying that I'd rather die than fight the dragon. But he has to, and he's stuck maintaining the hope because now he's the symbol of peace. And that is a power perception. That's why we need to challenge our perceptions externally or internally because facts are facts and perceptions are often distorted. That's why we have to seek what is real through fact checking and reality testing. So I do shout out to and give some digital flowers to Stark and his demonstrated self-awareness. He knows himself really well and he does not lie to self. Self-deception is another fascinating psychological research and look into it. Self-deception. And when you're so deluding yourself and when the lie is so powerful and potent, we even convince ourselves otherwise, anything away but the truth and the fact. So perception is not reality. Reality is reality. Another self-honesty and a little bit of self-deprecating humor. I appreciate that. Stark had an argument with his master, the dwarf warrior, over not wanting to find monsters because what is his job? What is his identity? Of course, there are different identity markers. He's a warrior. He's an apprentice warrior training under the master dwarf warrior who defeated the demon king and saved the world. Of course, there's an argument. But what do you guys think about the identity formation and viewing what you do as who you are? Because who we are is not what we do. And what we do is not who we are. It is a part of our identities, but all of us wear many hats. I am a son. I am a husband. I am a human. I am a cat dad to 2 cats of my own. I'm also a psychotherapist. I'm a podcaster. And now I am a fresh, green reaction YouTuber, I suppose. So we all wear many different hats. But we have to understand that who we are is not what we do. That's what capitalism and this productivity trap trying to confuse you with. Because if you think what you do is who you are, when you lose that thing, what does that translate to? You lose essence of who you are. And if you lose who you are, How can we become who we want to be? So this self-awareness is very important. But of course, this is anime and not actual real life psychology and real life identity formation. But it is funny and interesting that, yeah, I had an argument with my master because I don't want to fight the monsters. But yes, I am an apprentice warrior. And irony speaks volume. But it's a pretty funny start to the show already. Damn. He got beat up by his master.
結局俺は師匠に一度だって褒められたことはなかった。
How many Asians here can relate that we have never been praised by our parents? Maybe some teachers.
Emotional damage.
We never actually heard our dad say I'm sorry or I love you. This invisible, implied, assumed love. But this really goes a long way that communication and praising and affirmation have to be explicit. We are not mind readers. There's a famous cognitive distortion in CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, that it's called mind reading. We assume we know what people think. We assume the assumed by the other side. Oh, if I don't tell you I love you, of course they know I love you. You're my son. You're my apprentice warrior. I'm your master. Of course I love you. It's not of course. There are so many things that boggle us down and that we're distracted by. All of our internal realities are complex, infinitely complex. Humans are never simple. I know these are dwarves and elves, so I'm sure they're even more complex than humans, but humans are infinitely complex and all of us. We need to work harder and break this intergenerational trauma cycle of assuming and just giving implicit messaging. Implicit messaging, which is non-obvious, is even more powerful than explicit messaging often. That's why he's like, I've never been praised by my master once. Think about what that does to one's self-esteem. Oh, you don't need people's validation. Just validate yourself. Just praise yourself. Me, myself, and I. That's the dumbest shit ever. Humans are social animals, and sociality implies interaction. A society is comprised of people. So of course we need external validation and internal affirmation. We need both. It's two sides of the same coin. But who can relate?
なんだよ。
シュタルク様は逃げないと思います。
Also, yes, I know. Some of you noticed that the subtitles lag slightly behind the audio. So if you want to make sure we get the best top quality video and subtitles in real time, subscribe. That will help the channel grow and increase our budget and our capacity to react to the best quality videos with the best quality analysis to help you discover more about yourself and the world around you. So hit that subscribe button. It really helps.
微塵もわかりませんが、怖かったことを思い出したのです。
怖かったこと？
魔物と初めて戦った時です。
Fern can empathize because she went through a very similar thing.
逃げ出してしまいました。どこまでも追ってくる魔物。
Fight, flight, or freeze.
そんな感じだわ。
覚悟を決めた時、体が動いたのです。
Damn. So here Fern is talking about how for some reason my master Miss Frieren did not interfere. She didn't want to help me. I think that word did not want to help is a little bit inaccurate. A mentor is a very complex role. It's a multifactorial, it's multidimensional. What I mean by that is a mentor needs to learn the intricate balance between interdependence and also guidance. Interdependence means you allow your mentee or your loved ones the opportunity to be independent when it's important, but also allow them to be dependent as necessary. That's why it's an adult, children, mentor, mentee, parent, child dynamic, same thing. And I'm sure Miss Frieren or Frieren, I don't know why I keep saying Miss, I'm sure Frieren was watching from afar or even nearby because, of course, she is very responsible and she's a great mentor, as I've established in the first 5 episodes below. Check it out if you haven't before watching this. And another thing, and there's a famous saying in Chinese. I'm a Korean American, but I spent 6 years in China and I do speak fluent Mandarin. It's a Mandarin saying translated to English. It's give or take roughly. It means something along the line of indoor flowers cannot grow up to be strong, or indoor flowers do not match up to the vitality of wallflowers. That essentially translates to become a thriving being, to be a thriving mage, to be a thriving professional, human person, whatever identities you want to insert as. You need to have a certain appropriate level of friction, challenges. You need a certain level of barriers and difficulties to help you rise to the top, rise up to the vacation. This is a concept by Carol Dweck, growth mindsets. There are two different mindsets according to Carol Dweck's research, a famed psychologist from University of Pennsylvania. Same school, holla. Fixed mindset means people who think that what they have is what they are given, and what they're given is what they're going to end up with. Fixed. Oh, I was born with 120 IQ, even though IQ is a very outdated metrics and measurement for intelligence. There are multivariable intelligence out there, and people learn differently. People express their information and digestion and knowledge acquisition differently as well. But generally speaking, fixed mindset means this is what I have. So if I were born smart, then I'm smart. If I were born air quote not smart, then there's a natural ceiling. I'm not talking about ceiling gap for a lot of females out there because of patriarchy. I mean just innate ceiling. And yes, I'm not saying that all of us, just through sheer practice and grit, we can become like LeBron James or Kobe Bryant, rest in power. Of course not. I'm not saying let's be delusional. Of course, genetics plays a role. Genetics contribute and lead you to birth and the initial starting points. But we are much more than when we were first born with. Who we are is not who we used to be. And that's what growth mindset is. Yes, we all begin with different deck of cards. We all start with different starting points. But growth mindset means that we acknowledge and we recognize our potential and capacity to be more, to do more, through perseverance, through grit, through mentorship, through peer support, through therapy, through different growth avenues. I call it strength stimuli. Life's lemons, life's challenges, the curveballs, the unexpected suffering, because life is filled with unknown. Full stop. Whatever these things that help us grow, if we can internalize it as such, it's also known as post-traumatic growth. People who internalize and change their trauma into growth stimuli, strength stimuli. It's amazing. Some of the most fascinating people, the people I respect the most guests that I interact on the podcast, Harvard professors, thinkers from Yale, some of the best-known thinkers like Shazam founder, who sold Shazam to Apple for $402 million. $402 million, you heard that right, to Apple. Took him 20 plus years. His name is Chris Barton. He was on my podcast earlier last year. All of these people have the ability to turn the table and flip life upside down, to turn trauma into growth. That is growth mindset. And that's what Fern is demonstrating here. That at first, she was scared shitless. She froze. She didn't know what to do. But in a moment of courage, whatever decision she made, she said, you know what? I'm just going to do it. I don't have a safety net. Miss Frieren is not showing up for whatever reasons. She might be falling asleep because we all know she's not a morning person and she loves to sleep. I need to step up because no one will help you until you choose to help yourself. No one will save you until you step up. And then the world will resonate. And then the world will come to your support because you said yes to yourself. That's growth mindset. And that's what Fern is telling Stark, that I was the same way. And this is empathy, ability to relate with one another without judgment, because Fern's been there herself. And I'm sure Stark finds huge comfort in this, But that's called growth mindset versus fixed mindsets.
積み上げてきたものは決して裏切りません。シュタルク様はどうしようもない臆病者ですが、村を守りたいという覚悟だけは。
Hopeless coward. I love that Fern builds him up. Hey, I understand. It's fine. I was the same way. And then bam, destroys him, puts him right down. You're a hopeless coward, but there is hope for you.
本物だと思います。
His heart speaks. His compassion speaks.
覚悟。
どうだった？
Frieren sleeping or ready to sleep.
ありませんが、きっと大丈夫だと思います。
This too shall pass is one of my favorite saying. This too shall pass. The suffering, the worry.
逃げたか。期待していたんだけど。
Or did he run?
仕方がない。フェルン、竜と追いかけっこだ。
フリーレン、足止めは30秒でいいんだよな。
See?
一つ約束してくれないか。俺が途中で死んだとしても竜は必ず仕留めてほしいんだ。
わかった。約束する。
A lot of people think about, oh, I'm not charismatic enough. I don't have that personality flair. I don't have this gravitational pull that attracts people to me. And of course, charisma is a learned skill. No babies are born with charisma. Have you seen a baby and you're like, damn, bro, you're so charismatic. How? Teach me your ways. Of course not. Just like walking, it's a developed, learned skill set. Most things in life can be learned through practice and iteration of practice, period. And that's the same thing where people are like, oh, I'm not charismatic enough. That's why I'm not a leader. That's why people don't follow me. It's actually the other way around. You start to show people reasons to follow you through your passion, your conviction, your undeniable proof of conviction. In this case, that's what Stark is demonstrating. That, hey, Frieren, even if I die, promise me to kill the dragon at the cost of my death. Don't save me, kill the dragon. That's passion and conviction. That's what I'm talking about. That is a type of charisma. And I think Fern saw and felt a glimpse of that last night. And through this conviction, you develop charisma and people start to follow you. People start affirm you. People validate you. People see you for your inner strength. And when that inner strength is recognized long enough, often enough, frequently enough, it develops into confidence. And confidence manifests externally is charisma, generally speaking. That's why charisma and confidence takes time to be developed. You have to give yourself a reason to be charismatic, and you have to find your why and your calling and your conviction. Dig deep inside. And that will attract people to you. I promise you that.
ためにそこまでするの。
That's the end of my motivational speech.
変な質問だと思ってな。俺はこの村に3年もいたんだぜ。
3 years.
短いね。
超長えよ。
Not very long. 3 years is literally like what, milliseconds for Frieren's life? Again, different temporal perception. Time for Frieren, a seemingly immoral elf, and for Stark, a human, it's literally in 2 different dimensions. It's like Milky Galaxy and, I don't know, in the deep field, according to James Webb telescope.
よし。じゃあ一丁やるか。
Yoshi.
手が震えています。
怖いな、怖いんだよ。
Also my favorite quote from Will Smith, the famous actor.
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
Is don't be fearless, be scared, and do it anyway. That's what Stark is demonstrating here. Beautiful demonstration that we can never get rid of fear entirely. According to the latest neuroscience research, fear is the primary emotions all humans are born with. Makes sense? I talked about this in the previous episode. Why? Without fear, humans would have been eaten by lions or predators. It's fear that keeps us alive and makes us survive. So all of us are born with fear. That's literally the primary default emotions humans are born with. So the goal is not to get rid of fear. That's a misconception. I will do this. I will make this leap. I will take this leap of faith once I'm not scared, once I'm fearless. That's impossible. Do it scared anyway. Learn to manage your fear. Do it anyway. And this is another skill set, just like developing a charisma or confidence. Manage your fear. Conquer and manifest your inner strength. That's how we become who you want to be and close a gap between who we are now and who we want to become tomorrow in the future.
アイゼンと同じだ。
師匠とこれは強敵だ。
God damn, that thing's huge.
アイゼン、手が震えてる。怖いの？
Oh, because he said the same thing. I used to be the same way.
怖がることは悪いことではない。
Feeling scared is not a bad thing.
この恐怖が俺をここまで連れてきたんだ。
Growth mindset.
震え方まで同じだ。
Also, if you notice Farian's development and evolution, even with her emotional expression, in this case, facial expression, she went from maybe cracking a millisecond smile in the entire episode 1 to now showing her smiles and her fluctuations, her humanness. I know she's not a human, but her humanness facially and through her expressions more and more frequently. And I think this is also a byproduct and a sign that her emotional detachment and her struggle with emotionality and human relationships and companionship and pure support, because she's experienced so much grief because she's lived forever. So of course most people die except her. So even through her expressions throughout the series so far, you see the evolution. And that's what life is. Another famous quote from Will Smith's autobiography a few years back called Will. He says that life is like the opposite of school. Schools give you lessons and materials for the test. And then you study the materials and you take the test. Whereas the school of life or life is the complete opposite. Life presents you with tests first, without study plans, without lessons, without study materials. Life hits you with the head with the test and trials and tribulation first and foremost. And then it's our jobs to sit down, evaluate, assess, be mindful and thoughtful, and derive the lessons and the materials from the test that's given by life. And I think here is another beautiful demonstration that do is scared anyway, because once you go through life with this growth mindset framework, that's how you become like Dwarf the Warrior. Going from a younger dwarf, maybe apprentice warrior like Stark, freezing and froze in front of monsters. That's what Dwarf Warrior said, right? That's why I took him on, because Stark reminded me of me. To being the Dwarf Warrior as part of the hero's quest to defeat the Demon King and rescue the world. Beautiful demonstration that life is non-linear. Life is not linear. And that's what makes life unpredictable, but amazing and fascinating.
そうか。
Soか。
師匠も怖かったんだな。
I didn't mean to pause right before the action scenes, because looking for action scenes in this series for Frieren, I realized is like looking for gold in the US 2025, 400 years after the gold rush. It's nearly impossible. There's barely any action scenes. But this is important. I want to talk about trust and vulnerability. I'm pretty sure that by Frieren telling Stark that, hey, your master also froze. He also used to be vulnerable. He was the same way. You have nothing to be ashamed of. Fortunately, Stark is hearing this from Frieren today, right before the fight of his life. The first fight. And the first fight happens to be against the Solar Dragon. That's like going from high school to straight up being a doctor, skipping 12 years of education. Pretty bonkers. But here's what I'm trying to say. According to the latest Harvard Business School article, that perceived perfection by employees of their bosses or supervisors, perceived impeccability and perfection erodes trust like no other. How can that be? That's so counterintuitive. Oh, I want my boss to be competent and functional and be great at what they do and seemingly perfect. Everybody wants perfectionism. But when you see a seemingly perfect person like your boss, you think they're so inhumane and so impersonable. You can't relate with them. We don't bond over bragging. Oh, I'm so good in bed, bro. Like, oh, how's your bed skills? I'm great in bed. Yeah, I'm the richest. I make so much money. No one bonds over that. No one ever develops meaningful relationship for that matter, over bragging and perceived perfection. It's that vulnerability. It's this openness. It's this emotional resonance that makes you bond. Dude, I made my wife cry yesterday, man. I was reactive. I said some harsh words. I apologize, but I feel so guilty. I never want to make my wife cry again, dude. But it's my anger. I don't know what to work on myself. It's hard. Marriage is hard. Dude, me too, man. I could relate. Through this vulnerable conversation, through this intimate back and forth, that's how you grow through humans. That's how relationship gets developed. So vulnerability is almost a required ingredient to establish trust. Stark felt ashamed and left the master because I'm sure he never thought that how can my master, the warrior that helped defeat the demon king, freeze and be scared of monsters? That's why he felt ashamed. And the warrior, the warrior, didn't really put a lot of effort into establishing that psychological safety, emotional safety, by opening about his own fear. And this is a struggle. This is the intergenerational struggle that a lot of Asians and minorities struggle with. That our parents never opened up to us, so we struggle to relate with them. They always criticize us. Of course, they're well intended for most parents. Intentions are always well, but the impact is different from intention. Most people have good intentions, but how it lands is more important often than even the intention. If you mean well, but the other person didn't receive it as such, you just wasted your effort and their effort. It's meaningless. It's obsolete. So we need to be vulnerable genuinely. I don't mean manufacturing artificial fake vulnerability. I mean genuine openness and our genuine and willingness to share our own fears, our own emotions, our own experiences, our upbringing. That's part of mentorship. And sounds like to me, Dwarf the Master, at least in this specific scenario, in this case, symbolizes or represents so many of older parents or old Asian dads. And it's not their fault. They are the product of their environment and their generation. So it's not good or bad. It's just different time. But here it demonstrates that, and we shall see, I'm sure, the Stark will step up and probably comes out triumphant after slaying, or at least surviving for, actually not, slaying is a far stretch. I take that back. Who am I kidding? He's going to survive for 30 seconds for a Frieren to finish the job. So vulnerability is a required ingredient for trust. Oh, look at that. See that conviction and that courage. Dragon's like, what the heck? Wow. Dragon could feel Stark's dormant power. Yep. I just got some goosebumps. Oh! One shot?
反射的に体が動いたんだ。かわいそうなことをしてしまった。
What? Because the opponent's so strong. Survival instinct.
俺は怖かったんだよ。フリーレン。
Whoa, I have non-stop goosebumps right now. The dwarf, the warrior who defeated the demon king, or who helped defeat the demon king, got scared reflexively. Remember what I said? 3 primary responses when we're scared or in fearful states: fight, flight, or freeze. Obviously, the warrior is a fighter. That's literally his job, the warrior. His body reacted before his mind could stop himself. So his body reflexively hit or fought Stark because he felt that Stark is such a powerful opponent. Our body withholds ancient wisdom, mind-body connection. This is crazy. And this is, again, talks about the importance of explicit communication. People do not read our minds, and people are not mind readers. Because Dwarf the Warrior never explained this to Stark for whatever different reasons, I'm sure multitude of them, Stark left feeling ashamed and guilty and feeling that he let his master down. That shame made him stuck in that village for 3 years, training relentlessly without fighting a single monster. All he had to do, all the master had to do is, I'm sorry, which I know is the hardest kryptonite for Asian dads. I'm sorry, my body moved before I did, because you have this unspeakably powerful dormant energy within you. You have the potential. I'm not disappointed in you. I believe in you. You have everything that I can be and then more. Communication goes a long way. So please, please do not assume that people read our minds. People are not mind readers. But this is crazy.
俺は怖かったんだよ、フリーレン。こいつはすごいことだ。俺の弟子は
Oh, let's see that smile by Frieren.
と
Yep,
ん
see
でも
that
ない
smile.
戦士になる。
Damn! Oh shit! Oh! Damn! Was that 30 seconds? Not yet. Oh, see? Mentorship. She's helping Stark develop his skills.
もう死んでいるよ。
What? What?
クソババアか。後が怖いな。
Stark killed the dragon in one hit.
やったのか。
Damn!
俺が一人で竜を倒した。
Another completely non-psychological and off-tangent observation. I realized this all the action scenes in this show, it's all about the build-up, story building, character development, which is amazing, great animation style, and very anticlimactic action scenes. It's always TKO, one hit, one kill. But it's the build-up that's amazing. So we'll see if the action scenes become spicier or feistier down the road. But man, what a build-up. What a build-up.
シュタルク。よくやった。期待以上だ。
Good job.
偉いぞ。宝の山だ。うひょー。全部は持っていけませんよ。3つまでにしなさい。
You're only allowed 3.
本当にくだらねえな。こんなものに夢中になれるのか。師匠はお前のせいで勇者一行の冒険がくだらないものになったって言ってたぜ。
そう。
くだらなくてとても楽しい旅だったってよ。
すごい、本当にかき氷が出てきましたよ。
Another reminiscent or flashback.
くだらん。こんなことをしていていいのか。
まだ旅は始まったばかりなんだ。
最強と言われた南の勇者も魔王直下の七宝剣に撃たれた。
Damn.
俺たちだって生きて帰れるかどうかわからないんだ。
アイゼンは辛く苦しい旅がしたいのかい？僕はね、終わった後にくだらなかったって笑い飛ばせるような楽しい旅がしたいんだ。
見てください、ほら、触るとすぐに溶けてしまいます。
触っちゃダメだって食べるんだから。
くだらん。
Do you think the priest added alcohol on top of the shaved ice? Or pingsu in Korean? A quick comment about what Himmel, the hero, said. That why would you want to go on a painful and difficult journey when you don't even know we're going to return alive facing the Demon King? I say this to my clients often too. I was like, hey man, I don't actually say hey man, but for the sake of, hey man, life is already doing plenty of the beating. So why are you beating yourself up even more? Life is already hard. Life is suffering, is Buddhism's first noble truth. So suffering is an innate experience that's part of this life package that we're born with. Friedrich Nietzsche, a famous nihilistic philosopher, he said that when you're born into this life, you sign a contract with life with 3 clauses on that contract. That only thing you know in life is you will die. That's first. Second, life will be filled with uncertainties. That's second. Third, life is full with suffering. And actually, there's a fourth. You cannot evade taxes for too long.
I don't care who the IRS sends. I am not paying taxes.
So that's what Nietzsche is saying, that life is already plenty of suffering. And that's what Himmel the hero also says it here, that life is full of suffering already. It's hard. So why do you want to make the journey hard already? Let's make it nonsensical. I'm still struggling with this process that I'm a pretty intense guy. I love what I do. I work very hard. I do a bunch of things in life. I'm proud of that. All of these things give me endless fulfillment and calling and joy. I truly love what I do. Either doing this new YouTube series I'm trying out, or working in my clinical work, or developing and working on my podcast business. I love everything that I do. But you can't always be serious in life. Why? Because life is already serious enough. So I think our ability to find joy amidst seriousness of life, I think that's the perfect equation for a life of meaning and happiness. And I'm still struggling with that aspect, but so this is a note to myself. But that's what Himmel's saying. And that's what Dwarf the Warrior said, or that's what Stark said about what the master told him about Frierin's journey, that it was a full of nonsensical journey, yet fun at the same time. And look at the outcome. They came back like a complete archetype of hero's journey. They went on a journey, defeated the Demon King, a feat that no one has ever done before. Just like the strongest warrior of the mankind, of the warrior of the South, got killed by the 3 sages of the Demon King. Yet they defeated the Demon King and came back just in time, like in episode 1, for that meteor shower once in 50 years. So it shows that there's proof in the work. Their approach and Himmel's approach of being nonsensical, but fun, but also productive at the same time is possible. I think this is a beautiful goal for all of us to strive for. Be a little bit less serious without losing seriousness in everything that we do.
透けて見える。見えますが、あまり面白い魔法ではありませんね。白い体じゃなくて。
何？
ちっさ。
Wrong person?
それで師匠が俺を連れてけって言ったんだろ。それに俺もくだらない旅がしたくなったんだ。
現在関所の通行は認められていない。
通れるようになるのはいつ頃になりそうですか？
少なくとも俺が着任してからは魔物も人も一匹たりとも通していない。
How long is that?
戦車ども、この町でくれぐれも問題は起こすなよ。
いい対応ではありませんでしたね。
そうだね。あれは優秀な衛兵だよ。町を守る衛兵は核あるべきだ。というわけで、この町は安全そうだし、しばらくここで待つとしよう。久々にゆっくり魔法の研究ができるぞ。宿に荷物を置いたら魔法店に行こうっと。関所が空いてないんだからしょうがないじゃん。ほら、ここで解散。私宿取ってくるから。
Why are they not responding?
飯でも食いに行く？
What is this death stare?
最近では回路もダメになったって話だぜ。
関所が開くのは早くても2年は先だろうな。
2 years?
商売上がったりだ。
I mean, 2 years is literally 2 seconds for Frieren, but pretty long for Fern.
前来た時はガキだったから全部食えなくて師匠と分けたんだよな。でもこんな小さかったっけな。
Does anyone else experience, I guess if you're in the United States, that when you first had a Big Mac from McDonald's as a kid, it was massive, humongous. It was my favorite burger in the whole world. But sometime in college, I think when I had it, and I was like, what the heck? This thing is tiny. Literally 2-3 biters. And that's probably how he feels.
なっちまったからだぜ。俺が大きくなったんだな。ガキの頃は何もかもが大きかったのに。
Captain Obvious,
あれ
huh?
ほど広かった師匠の背中でさえ。
アイゼンの旦那ももう年だ。しっかり親孝行してやれよ。
でも本当にこんな小さかったっけな。
時の流れってのは残酷だよな。
Temporal perception again, a common recurring theme.
なんだよ、いいだろ別に。俺の金で買ったんだぜ。
ミルクください。
あ、いいよ。
何？なんで怒ってんの？
シュタルク様。
分かったよ、半分あげるよ。
そうではなくてこの町で2年以上だと言われたらどう思いますか？
え？嫌だけど。
そうですよね安心しました。シュタルク様って普通だったんですね。
関所を越える方法か。いいぜ、探すの手伝うよ。飛んで上から越えちまうってことはできないのか？
You can't really blame Fern because Fern spends half of her life with Frieren up to this point. But again, remember, Frieren could live like 10,000 years. 10,000 years. So she has no urgency. Every perceivable urgency is arbitrary to her. Would you rush? I wouldn't rush if I had 10,000 years. I will never wake up early. I wouldn't hit the gym at 5 in the morning as I do. I wouldn't pursue all these meaningful pursuits. Why rush? What's the point? What's urgent? I will do what I want, when I want, how I want to do it. That's why this is probably the only contention between, not a contention, that's a strong word, but the only issue that Fern has Frieren, aside from her sleeping in, I guess collecting weird bones and medicine and plants, and I lied. I guess Fern has a lot of issues with Frieren. But Fern's point is like, being stuck here for 2 years, I don't care if this is peaceful or stagnant. We're not moving forward. And she's youthful. And when you're young, everything's go, 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 go. But for Frieren, who cares? I can finally settle down, study my magic. I can chill for a bit. So no one's wrong here. Because Frieren lives 10,000 years. And Fern, maybe 80, maybe 90. And she's in her prime. She's so young. So much youthful energy. But again, temporal perception. This difference in time perception is an ongoing theme. And it makes sense. Because the main character is an elf.
北側諸国との国境には限界高度まで強力な結界が張られていて通過できないそうです。
仕方がない。商人ギルドに当たるか。交易ぐらいはしているかもしれない。
I think this is the type of border security that Donald Trump wants for United States of America.
北側はよほど危険な状況のようですね。やはり情勢が落ち着くまで待つしか。
いや、闇市は盗賊ギルドの連中も当たってみよう。大丈夫。俺って結構強そうに見えるし、はったりもうまいんだぜ。
He's about to be humbled real fast. That's usually a setup. Maybe not.
ダメか。そりゃそうだよな。
Impenetrable borders. This is Donald Trump's wet dream for United States of America.
お前が言い出したことだろう。待つのは嫌なんじゃないのか？
私以上に必死なように見えます。
まあ、あまり時間がないからな。
What?
どういうことですか？
ここ、いい景色だろ？北側がよく見える。小さい頃、師匠に連れられてここに来た。
俺たちはこの町から北側諸国に旅立ったんだ。
どんな旅だったんだ、師匠？
聞きたいか？あの時、俺たちは
普段は自分のことを何も話さないくせに、師匠は長い人生の中のたった10年の冒険を。
That grip is a loving fatherly grip. That silent love.
きっとフリーレンだってそうなんだろう。
どうでしょうか？
師匠はもう旅ができるような年じゃない。 そんな師匠が俺を連れてけってお前たちに言ったんだ。くだらなくて楽しい旅をたくさん経験して土産話をたっぷりと持って帰らないとダメなんだ。
It's a meaning for urgency,
俺にできる恩返しはこのくらいだからさ。
like the master's dying wish. Similar to Frien's journey, almost identical and parallel. Frieren did the same for the bishop.
こんなところで足止めはいけませんね。
あの人はまだまだ長生きしそうだけどな。
What's the dwarf's average lifespan? Asking for a friend?
フリーレン様、こんなところで何をやっているんですか？
静かにして。追われてるんだよ。
何やらかしたんだよ。あ、
申し訳ありませんでした。
What?
フリーレン様、どうかお許しくださ
Ah, of course. She's
待って。
the mage,
嫌な流れ
Frieren.
な気がする。
い。この町の城代として謝罪いたします。
いや、気にしてないよ。この人は衛兵の仕事をしただけだし、私も全く急いでなくて、むしろのんびり。
また北側へ旅立つおつもりなのですが、北側諸国は今、魔王軍の
When there is a will, there is a way. It looks like the checkpoint is about to be opened up and offered to Frieren and her party because she is required or they need her. So if there is a will, there is a way. Another growth mindset.
弟との紛争が絶えないと憂えてのことでしょう。その志、まさに英雄の
That's not Frieren
諸
though.
国の民
He does not know
の
her.
ことでしょう。関所はご自由にお通りください。
She wanted stability and just hunkered down and she wanted to be a hermit.
こんなに簡単に通れるだなんて。
I love the symmetry or I love this geographic beauty of the height difference. Shortest to the medium to the tallest.
初めからフリーレン様の名前を出していればよかったんじゃないですか？
でも無駄だと思っていたんだよ。ゆっくりしたかったのに。それに私、こういうのあまり好きじゃないんだよ。
俺は見れてよかったって思っているぜ。
Frieren is deeply, deeply humble and modest.
師匠もこんな感じで北側に旅立ったんだな。
Always flashback to Himmel. Were they romantically involved? I need to know. I've been asking this every episode.
魔法の研究したかったな。
まだ言ってる。
大変だったんだぞ、あれはいろいろ。なあ。
If you found my analysis and reaction helpful, and are you looking for personalized support, you can email me at discovermorepodcast@gmail.com to see how we can work together. And click that subscribe button and comment what you thought about the video. And if you learned anything about trust, vulnerability, and the power of mentorship for growth, share this episode with one friend. It'll make our day. And don't you want to help out your friend with some more psychological insights that's helpful for their growth? Until next time, friends, peace.